If you collect points and miles, 2026 is not business as usual.
Fees are climbing, lounge rules are tightening, and some of your favorite transfer partners are quietly getting worse.
Today, we're breaking down what's actually changing, what is just noise, and what we're adjusting in our own strategy heading into 2026.
The people who win in this game aren't the ones chasing the biggest bonuses. They're the ones paying attention to the small shifts.
Hey, I'm Chris. Welcome to the Upgraded Points Podcast.
And I'm Katie, and today we have some United credit card news. We're going to talk about my trip to Bimini. We've got credit card trends for 2026, and we are going to answer a reader question about Chris's trip to Japan. Before we get to that, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you are watching or listening, and be sure to share us with a travel-loving friend. So, Chris, what's going on with United Cards? They just dropped some news. What's going on?
Yeah, they just dropped some news right before we started recording. So coming April 2nd, there are new benefits coming to United co-branded cards. And this means increased points earnings on United purchases. So we'll drop all this information in the show notes for you. This is just a quick overview. But pretty much what you need to know, if you have a United co-branded card, you will be getting a discount on your award flights. All co-branded card members will receive at least 10% off United award flights that they book. And those with Premier Elite status and a co-branded credit card will save at least 15%. That's good news, especially if you have a card and status. Mm-hmm. However, basic economy tickets, as you can probably guess where this is heading, are going to stop earning. That is unless you have status and or a co-branded credit card. So, unfortunately, this is the trend we're seeing lately. Airlines are, not rewarding basic economy as much, and then focusing more on credit cards. This is a kind of a great intro to our topic today, but first, I want to hear about your trip, Katie. It sounded like it started really nice. You went somewhere really nice. It didn't end up in the nicest spots. Tell us all about your long weekend.
Started great, ended not so amazing. So we just talked about weekend trips in the U.S. last week, and I had a great weekend trip just outside of the U.S., just over 60 miles from the coast of Florida. I went to Bimini, which is a teeny tiny little, I think it's 7 miles long island in the Bahamas. It's the closest Bahamian island to the U.S. But previously, you had to take a ferry from Fort Lauderdale or a little seaplane to get there. So even though it was so close, it was really hard to access. But I was down there because there was the inaugural flight on American Airlines from Miami to Bimini. This is the only direct flight from the U.S. to the island of Bimini. It's been, I think, 8 years since there was a direct flight from the U.S. to Bimini. So this was a really big deal, and it's going to open up accessibility to that island, not only from South Florida. I mean, it's going to be so easy and quick to get there from South Florida, but American Airlines uses Miami as a hub. So anywhere in the country, you can make an easy, quick connection in Miami to get to Bimini. The flight itself, I think it was booked. You know how they always add all the time in before and after the actual flying time. I want to say it was blocked 50 minutes or something. And the actual flying time was 18 minutes. So it's a quick flight. As we were taking off, we were still climbing, and they started playing the landing recording, put away your stuff for landing.
That's good.
Yeah, it was funny. So this flight will operate 3 times a week on an Embraer 175. Prices start around $400 round trip, which I sounded a little more expensive than I was expecting. But then I looked at the ferry, and that can easily cost over $300, and that takes 2 hours. So this actually, price-wise, is kind of right in line with what you might have to pay, and probably cheaper than booking a seaplane. The real magic, though, is if you can find this flight in points. If you book it through AA, it's 20,000 points round trip, which fine, I guess. But I looked, you can book the same flight through Alaska for 9,000 miles round trip.
There you go.
There was a lot of availability. So that's the key. You can book this through Alaska on American for 9,000 at most points. So
that is a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was some hoopla.
Did you say 9,000 round trip?
9,000 round trip.
Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was really surprised when I found that yesterday. So that was exciting. So that was a fun flight. There was some hoopla at the airport. There were people there from the airport and from the Bahamas Tourism Bureau, and it was a fun little party before we took off. And I was there to check out Resorts World Bimini, which is, I think, the only major resort on that island. Once you get to the airport, you have to take a 20-minute ferry to the resort, but it's a nice little boat ride. It was quite fun. Um, the main building of this resort has two pools, and it's a waterfront resort, but it's not beachfront. So it's kind of on a canal. Right across the canal are private homes, and if you have boats, you can pull right up. So there's a little marina there as well. It's a very popular place with boaters because previously, a lot of people would come over from Florida with a boat. So at the main resort building, there's a pool right down on the waterfront, and there's also a rooftop pool. There's a casino right there. But the real magic of this place happens when you go to Bimini Beach, which is their beach and main pool area. There's
Mm,
two huge resort pools. It's what you would expect from a big resort. So there's two big pools, lots of chairs, and it's beachfront. The beach is really nice. The pool is a little too much for me, a little too loud. It was a very party atmosphere, but
okay.
people looked like they were having a great time. Not quite my speed. So I went out to the beach, got a nice chair in the shade. I was a very happy girl. Really
Nice.
lovely white sand beach, soft sand, clear water. It was this shade of turquoise that was just gorgeous, that you can see sometimes in the Caribbean, but this one was just it was really spectacular. Unfortunately, I don't think my photos or videos will do it justice, but really, really nice beach area. It is the same beach spot that is used by the cruise ships. So if you visit Bimini on a cruise, I know Virgin Voyages goes there, Celebrity, I think a couple other lines stop there. That's the same beach area that they will use. So it can get a little crowded on port days, but nothing more than what you'd expect at any resort. So, nothing really to worry about. And they do have a free shuttle. It took like 3 minutes maybe to get there. So really, even though it's
Okay.
not right on that property, it's very
Yeah.
easily accessible. But
Nice.
this was a cool island. We were able to do a quick tour of the island on a golf cart. And if you go there for a couple days, rent a golf cart for a couple hours of the day and just kind of cruise around. It was just a really laid back vibe, not overly developed. So it feels still very, I hate using the word local, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah.
not big resorts everywhere, which is kind of
Hmm.
nice. Radio Beach was their kind of main public beach. Absolutely beautiful. Big, white sand, the blue water was just really nice. Lots of beachside and roadside bars and restaurants. I know some of the people I were traveling with were after a lobster pizza at a very specific place. They'd
Oh.
had it years ago and they remembered it ever since. So they went after this lobster pizza. It was just a really neat island. It was my first time there. So prices
That
start
sounds nice.
275-ish a night, so very reasonably priced. It used to be a Hilton, but it is not anymore. So you can't use points. So this is a great option if you have like a Capital One Venture or Venture X. You can pay with that card and then pay yourself back with your points on the credit card. So that's using that purchase eraser feature. So that would be a good card to use for this stay. So, okay, I'll tell you about getting home because that's where
Yeah.
the
I mean,
drama
I don't
started.
care about all this fun stuff. I want. I
Like,
saw
forget
the
it.
drama on stories. I want to know what happened.
Oh man, so everything was fine. We get to Miami. It was great. I tried to get on the earlier flight. It was booked. Couldn't get on standby. It was President's Day weekend, so I should have known better. But anyways, so I get on my flight, and they had said before we left, there's a little bit of weather in Columbus, but we're gonna beat it, so we're gonna be fine. And I knew how long the flight was. And once I got to the point of the flight, I'm like, we should be landing by now. And I look at the flight tracker in the AA app and it said 3 minutes left. And I checked like 10 minutes later and it said 3 minutes left. I'm like, well, that's not right.
Mm.
So I actually just got the Flighty app, which I know, Chris, you use,
Oh
right?
yeah.
We've talked about that app before. And so I pulled it up and looked at the flight path and it was like going around Columbus. I'm like, well, that's not good. That
Oh
can't be
no.
good. So I knew something was wrong before they made an announcement, which was nice to not be, surprised when they came on the loudspeaker and said, "Well, there's really thick fog in Columbus. We can't land. We've been kind of, circling around for a while, but now fuel's a problem, so we're going to divert to Indianapolis."
Oh,
Which is not what you want to hear. So we ended up landing at Indianapolis at 1:30 in the morning. Yeah, I was trying to be really proactive about it, and we've talked about this before.
mhm.
If you have situations like this, everyone when they get off the plane is going to be looking for a new flight, a hotel, all of that.
Yeah.
And I think you've talked about it on the podcast before, where you're able to get all of that situated before you even land. So that's what I was
Mhm.
trying to do, but I'm exhausted and just like, I didn't do this perfectly, but I had found a flight leaving the next morning at 5:30 a.m. Unfortunately, there's no direct flights to Columbus from Indianapolis because it's closed. But I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'm going to be on this flight before everyone gets to the desk and, gets a flight at 8 p.m. the next night. So I booked that in points. And I try to figure out a hotel. The hotel situation is grim. Long story short, we land. They tell us that actually they're just going to take that whole flight and move it to the next morning. So I was able to cancel the flight that I made,
Okay.
which was great because then we could just go direct to Columbus. So I was actually very
Yeah.
happy that that's how it worked out. And then they sent us a link saying, "We'll cover your hotel. Here's a link that you can choose what hotel you want and a $12 food voucher." So
Lovely $12. Yeah.
$12, yeah. And this is where I went wrong. I was originally trying to book the Hyatt Place, and it was unbookable. This is 1:30 in the morning. You can't really book online for that
I know,
night
it's
when
so
it's already the
weird.
next day. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, "You know what? Fine." So I just clicked one of their options. They were all terrible options, but I clicked it, went to get my Uber. And that's when I found out that the hotel they put me in was 20 miles away from the airport.
Oh, no.
I was not happy
That's
about that.
and
And
what time was this? 2
like
AM now?
1:30, 1:45 in the
Oh,
morning. Yeah. Not a super awesome situation. So I was mad at them, but I was also kind of mad at myself for like not realizing this ahead of time and just booking an airport hotel and sending them the bill, which is what I should have done.
yeah.
Um,
If you found something better.
yeah, but it's sometimes in these situations you're like in the moment and it just happens and it's you know
Yeah.
what? So I get to the hotel, it's a total dump. It's by a Cracker Barrel and a Lion's Den, so take that what you
I
will.
don't what's a lion's den?
You don't want to ask on air, Chris.
Okay.
I'll tell
Sorry.
you later.
Different episode.
It's not that kind of show, Chris.
Uh,
Um, so in the end, it was fine. I got home, all is well, but it was just, sometimes this stuff happens. I was trying to be chill about it. The poor ladies next to me who are not very seasoned
mm.
travelers were losing their minds. They were
Oh, yeah.
freaking out. I think they were going to have someone come and pick them up from
From
Indianapolis.
Columbus?
Yeah, I
No.
think it's a 3-hour drive.
Wow. Yeah, I
Anyways,
mean,
but that's just to say, it's good to be prepared in
yeah.
these situations, but also even when you're a super seasoned traveler, sometimes it,
All right,
it
it
doesn't work out
happens.
great, but what? All good. So there we go.
Okay. Well, I'll try to segue that into our main topic. I don't know how. But today we are covering a topic that has been getting a lot of attention over on upgradedpoints.com. Lori, one of our writers, she wrote a great article about travel trends that she's watching in 2026. And Katie and I thought it would make a great episode, great podcast episode. And we would love to hear feedback from our listeners as well. So wherever you're listening or watching, make sure to drop a comment or shoot us an email after to let us know what you think. But we're going to break it down into a few different sections. And I'm going to kick it off with a trend that we cannot ignore, and that is annual fees are going up. We saw this in 2025, and we expect to see this trend continue in 2026. Unfortunately, we saw the annual fees increase to $795 on the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and then $895 on the Platinum card from American Express last year. This really just opened up the market for this ultra premium level of card. So just don't be surprised if we see more of these coming this year. Along with these increased annual fees, these issuers are leaning more into the premium experience, whether that's, access to World Cup tickets or more lifestyle, focused benefits or credits. We saw the Aura and Lululemon credits from the Platinum card. The Chase Sapphire Reserve just dropped that really nice Whoop benefit.
Whoop.
Whoop.
Okay. Couldn't help
You have to
myself.
yell it. You have to yell it when you pronounce it. Sorry. But just because that these perks are increasing, if you aren't using them, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to keep the card, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between optimizing the credits and justifying the credits. Now it's becoming more complicated, so you really do have to kind of take a peek at it.
Yeah. So I think what's important, especially in 2026, is that you just need to run the math annually. Okay. If you're not clearly winning with your credit card, it's time to reconsider.
Okay, number 2, transfer ratios. They are not as simple as they once were, and they're shifting, and we're seeing this more and more. So the good news is we're seeing a lot of transfer partners and programs adding transfer partners, which we love, but it's not always at a 1-to-1 ratio. And, 5, 10 years ago, almost everything was a 1-to-1 ratio, and that is just not the case anymore. And these devaluations don't really make it into the headlines. So unless you're really paying attention, you might not have even noticed any of this. So we saw it in 2025. Amex to Emirates devalued in September. Very, very recently, Amex to Cathay Pacific went from 1-to-1 to 5-to-4. And also Capital One to Emirates went from 1-to-1 to 1 to 0.75. And so this makes the math more difficult and opens the door to more of these weird numbers.
Yeah. It kind of reinforces, the diversification of your points. It's not really just, it has to be part of your strategy. You can't be a preference, I only like this type of points. If you want to really insulate yourself from these changes, you need to diversify your points.
Yeah, and that flexibility across these different ecosystems really matters more than ever.
Here's a big one that I know our listeners and readers are feeling. It's airport lounges are changing fast. Lounges are a big part of the travel experience, especially for Katie and myself and a lot of people in this hobby. The good news is we're seeing a lot of more and better lounges lately. There's some incredible lounges popping up, but we're also seeing a lot more restrictions. And we know that you're feeling this. There are already several changes underway in 2026 alone. Just a few weeks ago, Capital One lounges, they started restricting authorized users on the Capital One Venture X and Venture X business card. Amex is tightening guest access on layover rules on the Centurion lounges. Yeah, that's starting July 8th, folks, so keep that in mind. Guests now must be traveling in the same flight as the eligible card member. And then access during layovers is limited up to 5 hours before the departing flight. So keep that in mind. If you're planning on spending, the whole day in the lounge, maybe take that earlier flight. And then for those of you who still have the Ritz-Carlton credit card, which is only available by switching over from another Chase-issued Marriott card, they no longer offer the unlimited complimentary guests. And that was starting in January as well. So overall, this is kind of good news for the lounge experience itself, right? If you're already in the lounge, there's less overcrowding and more options to choose from, but there's fewer and fewer guests each time.
Yeah, and there comes a point when lounge access shouldn't drive your credit card decision anymore, where maybe it was a huge factor a couple of years ago. Even if you have access, you are not guaranteed entry. When I was at the Miami airport this past weekend, there was an hour and a half wait to get into the Centurion Lounge.
Wow.
All day, because I was there all day. And with these new rules that are starting in July, I wouldn't have even been able to get on the wait list, even though I was on a layover. You most likely are going to have to pay for guests now for most of these lounges, with the exception of the Sapphire lounges at the moment. And all of that kind of makes your free lounge access not free anymore. So while it's a great benefit, it's not one that I think should really be a big factor for your decision.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, let's take a break. And when we get back, we have a couple more points that we want to talk about, and then we'll give us some tips for our listeners moving into 2026. Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're listening to this podcast, you're exactly the kind of person we built our free newsletter for.
We break down the best credit card offers, transfer bonuses, award alerts, and travel news that actually matters. No fluff, no spam, just the stuff we'd text a friend if something big dropped.
A lot of these deals we talk about on the show don't last long. The newsletter is where we flag those fast.
It's totally free, and you can sign up at upgradedpoints.com/join-newsletter. Okay, welcome back. The next trend that we're going to talk about is new cards and the mid-tier gap. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of these mid-tier cards, and we're kind of considering that sort of $250 to $500, which used to be considered a premium card, but now with all of these $800+ cards or
Yeah.
$700+ cards, $500 is mid-tier now. And we love those luxury cards, but this mid-tier group is one to keep an eye on because I think there's going to be a lot of sneaky value in these cards. So we're seeing more of these and more new cards in general. We just saw the introduction of 3 new built cards, a $0 annual fee card, a 95 and a 495. So they definitely have one in that nice mid-tier range. We are expecting new Hyatt cards this year, which is super exciting. We do not have any details yet. We found out that they are planning new cards a couple months ago. They currently have a $95 consumer card and a $199 business card. So I'm expecting to see either a mid-tier and or a luxury high-end card. We don't know yet. I guess there could be a $0 annual fee card. I mean, all of their hotel chains have a fee-free option. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Hyatt skips that because I think they think of themselves as the luxury option. So I don't know. I don't think we'll see a free Hyatt card, but we'll see. Expect to see more debit cards. Last year, we saw a United debit card and a Southwest debit card that were actually kind of worth sort of talking about. They were coming with some perks, points earning, and I think they even had small welcome bonuses. We've already seen an announcement for a new Spirit card. So while that might not be wildly exciting, there are some people that that's going to be excellent for, and it's a trend that we are seeing. So I would expect to see more of those in 2026. We also have some rumors swirling. These have been around since late last year for a Capital One Saver X. It should cost $295. According to rumors, we don't know anything, but these are kind of well documented on the internet. If you do a quick Google search, you'll find this. And this card is rumored to offer 4 points per dollar on dining and entertainment, 3 points per dollar on grocery, an annual $100 dining credit for their collection of restaurants, an annual $120 Starbucks credit, Apple TV, and an Uber One membership. So that, if those rumors are true, that kind of makes it seem like Capital One is following the trend of these mid-tier cards, but also, unfortunately, following the couponifying trend and complicating cards, because I'm going to bet a lot of money that $120 Starbucks credit is not coming as a $120 Starbucks credit. That's going to be $10 a month. We all know it. And I don't like seeing that. So Capital One, don't touch the Venture X. I don't need coupons on that card.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough of that last year, but unfortunately, I think you're right, Katie. I think the writing is on the wall for a lot of these companies. One more thing to keep in mind this year is the fact that legislation could actually reshape rewards. Politicians have become some of the most important players in your point strategy. The Credit Card Competition Act keeps popping up, keeps getting squashed, and keeps popping up again, most recently in January. As a reminder, if it passes, merchants will see reduced operating costs and interchange fees, and credit card companies, could take away rewards to offset that lost revenue. Nothing has changed yet, but if the bill gains traction, it could fundamentally change how banks offer rewards to credit card holders. This is one area where staying informed and contacting lawmakers, if you oppose it, actually matters. And so we write about all this on upgradedpoints.com. We'll drop the link in there so you can have some more information, but that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's wrap it up with 6 key takeaways. You can consider this your 2026 travel credit card playbook. 1, reevaluate annual fees intentionally and often, at least once a year. Sometimes maybe twice a year is a good idea. 2, diversify your transferable currencies. It is no longer a one program game. Get in all of them. Number 3, don't overpay for lounge access. Number 4, watch the legislation. Don't fear it. Just keep yourself informed. Number 5, look harder at those mid tier card options. And number 6, as always, stay disciplined with payments and never carry a balance.
Yeah, 2026 is not just about collecting more credit cards. It's about being more intentional with the ones that you already have. But we want to hear from you, our listeners, our watchers, our readers. What do you think of these trends? What do you want to see this year? Send us an email at podcast@upgradedpoints.com.
Okay, let's move on to a reader question. We got an email from Hayden, and this was in response to our episode about Chris's trip to Japan. He says, I really enjoyed the latest episode of your podcast regarding Chris's family trip to Japan. I was wondering if you had any extra insights on room capacities for hotel rooms. In particular, we're a family of 4 with 2 adult children. Would any of the hotels that Chris booked be able to fit us in one room, or would we be required to book 2 rooms each night? I know that room occupancy is more strictly enforced in many parts of Europe, so I just want to clarify if this is true for Japan as well. Thanks again. Would love to see more of these practical trip breakdowns in the future. So thank you for the email, Hayden. And Chris, what do you have to say?
Yes, thank you, Hayden. That is a great question because that is something that I ran into and I neglected to cover in my review of my trip. So, in general, I think we all know that Japan they have a lot of hotels with smaller rooms, so occupancy limits are real. However, most of the hotels I stayed at, I did not have any issues at all. There was one issue at the Park Hyatt where I had booked a king because they didn't have 2 doubles, and they said it's not going to fit 4. I held on to it anyways, and then 2 doubles opened up and it worked fine. But when you're searching for your rooms, I would not recommend searching for it at 4 people at a time. I would do 2 or 3 adults, find a room that works for you, put on hold if possible, or reach out to the hotel. So what I ended up doing, I booked 2 adults and 1 child, reached out to the hotel via email, said, hey, listen, we have another child. Can we add them to the room? They say, yeah, no problem. They often had an extra bed, which we ended up didn't need. But a lot of the systems will not allow you to put 4 people in a room. So I would just start reaching out to the hotels you're interested in, see what their policy is. You may be surprised that they actually do allow 4 or even more people in a room. However, there were a handful of hotels that said, no, so sorry, we can't do that. And almost all of them happened to be IHG hotels. I had been really trying to use my IHG points, and Intercontinentals and Holiday Inns and everyone that I came across said it was not possible. The other side, since you have 2 adult children, one way you could go is you could book those 2 rooms because there are some really cheap and small rooms around Japan. We were looking at, I think it was a Holiday Inn, where we considered getting 2 rooms because it was so cheap, or it was a choice hotel. It was something like 4,000 or 5,000 points a night. I was like, okay, well, I'll get a room for me and my son, and my wife will get one for me and my daughter, and we'll spend 10,000 points and have 2 rooms, and it'd be kind of fun, whatever. But yeah, so you are correct. There are occupancy limits, but definitely reach out to the hotel to see what they are.
Chris, when you were looking at those, were there any options for adjoining rooms?
No, the only time that hold on, let me rephrase that.
Sorry, I put you on the
Because
spot
we,
there.
yeah, oh, because I just remembered we did stay in a room that had a door, so they exist. The one time that I asked for 2 rooms, I asked if they could be adjoining. They said, no, we don't have that. We can put you next to each other. So I think that was at one of those choice hotels.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Hayden, for the question. And if you have any questions, comments about any of our episodes or something you'd like to see on a future episode, you can reach us at podcast@upgradedpoints.com. And that's going to do it for us this week. We will see you next week.